We all hear that small businesses are the engine of the economy, right? They're the backbone, the job creators. It's an idea we kind of take for granted. But what happens when that engine is running full throttle, but the car isn't really picking up speed? Well, today we're going to dig into a really fascinating economic puzzle in Oman, where the story of small business is, well, it's not at all what you'd expect.
All right, let's get into it. The best way to understand Oman's private sector is to think of it as two totally different economies operating side by side. In one economy, we've got the story of who has a job, and in the other, we have the story of where the actual money is being made. And you're about to see just how far apart those two stories really are.
So first, get a load of this number, 76%. 3/4 of all private sector jobs in Oman are in small and medium-sized companies. Now, on the face of it, that looks like a huge win, right? It seems to point to this incredible entrepreneurial economy where small businesses are just soaking up workers. Looks like a perfect system for creating jobs. But just hang on to that thought for a second.
Because this is the twist. This is the paradox right here on one slide. Look at this. While those small and medium businesses employ over 3/4 of the workforce, they only generate about 1/4 of the economic value. And the big companies? They employ less than 1/4 of the people, but they produce nearly 3/4 of the value. I mean, that's not just a small gap. That is a massive fundamental imbalance sitting right at the heart of the economy.
So just how big is this gap we're talking about? This isn't just a little difference in how businesses run. No, we're talking about a huge structural divide in productivity. And the wild part is, we can actually put a number on it.
Just look at these bars. The difference is staggering. On average, every 3 months, a single worker in a big company generates almost 14,000 Omani rials of value for the economy. Now look at the worker in a small or medium-sized company. Just over 1,500. What you're seeing here isn't just a chart. It's a story about where the real economic power in Oman is.
Which brings us to this one. Single number, 9. An employee in a large company is almost 9 times more productive than someone doing a job in a smaller one. Just let that sink in for a moment. 9 times. This number right here is the key to this whole puzzle. It's the main thing holding back wage growth and the country's overall competitiveness.
Okay, so the big question is why? I mean, is this because people in small businesses aren't working hard? Absolutely not. This isn't about effort. This gap is the result of some really deep structural things that shape how the economy works. Let's break down the 3 main reasons this is happening.
First off, it's about what these businesses actually do. Most of the small and medium businesses in Oman are in things like construction, retail, and other basic services. Think about it. These are sectors that are designed to be labor-intensive. Their whole model is built on having more people, more hands on deck, not necessarily on being super efficient. They win by doing a lot, not by doing it with high value.
Second, it's about how they grow. When a big company wants to scale up, they invest, right? They buy better machines, get new software, they build smarter systems. But for most small businesses, what does growth mean? It usually just means hiring one more person. They don't have the cash or the incentive to buy the fancy tech, so their productivity per worker just stays the same.
And the third piece of the puzzle is this constant pressure on prices. You have a lot of unofficial businesses operating under the radar, cutting corners to be the absolute cheapest option. Well, that drives down prices for everybody. And it makes it almost impossible for a legitimate small business to make enough profit to invest back into itself, to buy better equipment or train their people. It's a really tough cycle to break.
But this is where the story gets really interesting. Because you might be thinking this whole system sounds broken. But what if I told you it wasn't an accident? That this imbalance, in some ways, isn't a bug, it's a feature. The SME sector has been playing a hidden but super important role for Oman's economy.
And this quote right here says it all. The SME sector has been acting like a giant employment safety valve. It's a sponge that soaks up all the extra labor in the economy and crucially keeps mass unemployment from happening. So there's a trade-off. The country has been trading higher productivity and efficiency for job stability. The priority was creating jobs, any jobs, over creating high-value ones.
So where does that leave us? For a long time, the measure of success was pretty simple. How many new businesses are we creating? How many jobs? But as the data shows, that's just not enough anymore. The whole strategy has to shift, away from the sheer quantity of jobs and towards the quality of the work and the value it creates.
So how do you even begin to do that? Well, there are 3 big ideas on the table. First, encourage smaller firms to consolidate, to merge. That way they can pool their money and actually afford the modern tools they could never buy on their own. Second, make financing smarter. Public loans and funding should be tied directly to gains in productivity.
You want a loan? Show us how you're going to use it to automate or go digital. And third, you have to adjust the cost of labor. You change the fee structure so that it makes more financial sense for a business to invest in a better process rather than just hiring another low-cost worker.
And in the end, it all boils down to this one powerful shift in thinking. Oman has done an incredible job of creating a massive SME sector. The challenge for the future is to make it a productive one. It's not just about creating more jobs anymore, it's about creating better, more valuable ones. And that really leaves us with the big question. How does an entire economy make that incredibly difficult leap from a system that values employment above all else to one that sees productivity as the real definition of success?